Welcome to Serving at a Historic Moment, AmeriCorps VISTA's 50th anniversary. This webinar explores key events, including the National Solutions Summit kickoff, as well as other community events taking place across the country. And it will show you how you can participate in the 50th and even apply ideas to events that you might be planning. We will also explore how this milestone year is building on the vision for VISTA in years to come. I'm your host, Andy King, with AmeriCorps VISTA Training Unit at the Corporation for National and Community Service. Assisting me today off-screen are our partners, Andy Clark from Education Northwest. You'll see both of us in the chat and the Q&A to assist you during today's session and to help get your questions answered. Our presenter today is Liz Matthews. Liz is the Outreach Team Lead here at AmeriCorps VISTA, and Liz has been heavily involved in planning most of the 50th anniversary events for the VISTA program. We're also delighted to have with us two guest speakers. I'll introduce them later on in the session, but want to just give you a heads up that they've already hosted 3 VISTA 50th anniversary related events, one in Seattle, Washington, another in Anchorage, Alaska, and the third in Casper, Wyoming. And we're going to get to hear about all 3 of those. So before we dive in, let's take a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll start out by taking a bird's eye view of this milestone year, and then we'll share some highlights with you from the National Solutions Summit. That was really the anniversary year kickoff. It happened back on February 25th. From there, we'll look at ways that you can promote the 50th anniversary right from your desk, giving you ideas for ways you can participate digitally throughout the year, in addition to participating in in-person events. But if you can't attend, we want you to know that you have other ways to participate. Next, we'll hear from our 2 guest speakers, so you can learn some effective practices that they utilized in planning their events that will help you if you're planning to host an event in your own community. And then finally, we'll make sure that you're aware of the various resources and tools that are available to help support you in your VISTA service this year, and particularly in events related to the 50th anniversary. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to turn it over to Liz Matthews.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us. So we wanted to kick things off with a question for you. What activities have you engaged in that recognize VISTA's 50th anniversary so far? We'd love to hear what you've done and also what you plan to do. So you can use this time to start letting us know through the chat. Have you attended an event? Did you participate in the live stream of the National Solutions Summit? Perhaps you've posted a photo on Instagram using the hashtag VISTA50 or IamVista, or perhaps you are in the midst of planning an event. So here, Kenneth is letting us know, nothing yet, but he'd like to participate in some way in his area. And it's great. Some folks have attended the other webinars and are interested in learning about what VISTAs are doing. Teresa attended the event in Seattle. That's great. Super. Some folks watched the live stream. That's great. And love it. Posting on Twitter. Certainly appreciate that at PSO. That's great. Super. So, and participated in a career fair at my local university and recognized the 50th anniversary. That's great. I haven't heard one of those stories yet, so that's wonderful. Posting on Facebook, local career link, and talking about AmeriCorps. So obviously you all are off and running. Oh, fantastic. And somebody just this week, yesterday, there was a fantastic event in Jackson, Mississippi. So thank you all. Orlando's also busy with activities. So this is great. We really appreciate the fact that you're already engaged and you're here on this call today to learn even more about how you can get involved. So I just want to also start by saying that you all are really doing amazing work with important organizations across the country. And the reason why this anniversary milestone is important to recognize is because it's important for people to know about VISTA and to know about the great work that you are doing. It's important for our community stakeholders, for CEOs, the heads of foundations and nonprofit organizations, as well as public officials to know who is doing this work. So if the community understands the critical impact that you're making and the impact that VISTA has made over the course of 50 years, then we think individuals and communities will be more supportive of the program and agree with the importance of its existence. So there really is very much a value in recognizing this great milestone. All right, so let's take a year at a glance. As Andy mentioned, we kicked things off on February the 25th at the National Solutions Summit, which took place here in Washington, D.C. at the National Museum of the American Indian. And for those of you who watched the videos live streamed or were there in person, or perhaps you've also seen the ones that are up on YouTube already, we would love to hear about what your favorite one was, or perhaps the most inspiring part of what you viewed. So again, in the chat, you can let us know if you were able to tune in through the live stream. Did you have a favorite speaker? Was there something that was particularly motivating to you? By all means, let us know. We'd love to hear your responses to those talks. So we also want to highlight that there are a variety of events taking place throughout the year, and many have already taken place. But CNCS, in addition to the National Solutions Summit, is hosting 5 Community Solutions Spotlights. These are taking place every other month throughout 2015. So as you can see, we've got Philadelphia right around the corner on April the 24th, and you can read through the rest of them posted there. And we really designed this community solutions model to achieve a couple of goals. And we have those goals as our theme as well, and that is to celebrate and innovate. So these events will recognize and celebrate the amazing work of individuals and organizations throughout the years, but they will also look towards the future. So not only will there be interesting and motivating talks by VISTA alums and sponsors and current members, but the participants will also have the opportunity to discuss solutions to specific issues that are affecting their communities. And as a community, they can then take action. For example, participants may discuss neighborhood revitalization and decide to turn vacant lots into community gardens. Perhaps as a community, they may realize that they want all of their children who are born into low-income families in that county to receive nurse well visits from age 0 to 2. So these types of things require a plan of action to be developed and involve a variety of folks from the community. In that last example, perhaps health practitioners, parents, perhaps the mayor's office, and more. And you're also going to hear a good example of a Community Solutions Summit and outcomes from it from one of our guest speakers based on the events that took place at the Community Solutions Summit in Wyoming last January. So the reason that CNCS chose these 5 locations is because they have significance to VISTA's past, present, and future. For example, VISTA started serving in Appalachia from the beginning of the program back in 1965, so we wanted the opportunity to tell the story of progress in Kentucky over these past 50 years. And in the case of Salt Lake City, they have been working on a federal plan to end chronic homelessness among military veterans, and they are very close to achieving that goal. So there was a great reason to take this to Salt Lake City. And you'll notice that we're going to conclude the year on December 3rd with a grand finale at the LBJ Presidential Library in Austin, Texas. So this will be an exciting event whether you live near Austin and can attend, or whether you participate in the drumbeat leading up to the finale by participating remotely. So while CNCS is hosting these spotlight events and the National Solutions Summit, there are community solution summits and community events taking place all over the country throughout the year. We've had 11 to date that we know of that have registered on our site, and 35 more coming up. So in a few moments, we can show you how you can view the listing of those that are coming up and how you can register an event if you're planning something. And then through our guest speakers, you'll have the opportunity to learn about examples of both the Community Solutions Summit model as well as the community events. And these community events focus on celebrating and recognizing the alums and members and sponsors and the VISTA program overall. So finally, no matter where you live, you can participate in the anniversary throughout the year through our digital campaigns. So we'll take a look at that and give you some specific ways to engage later in the presentation. All right. So we just wanted to show you a couple of photographs from the National Solutions Summit. Here's a photo of the panel that we compiled to showcase VISTA through the decades. And we had an alum from the late 60s. You might be able to tell by looking at it which one that is, as well as a currently serving member to tell their stories about how their VISTA service has or is impacting their lives. It really was quite moving. So I think if you're looking to see which talks you look at as they're posted on our YouTube channel, this definitely is a worthwhile one. So we will also be, as you can see in the chat, there is the address to our YouTube channel, and there are several of the talks are already available up on the channel, and we're still in the process of closed captioning and everything, so there will be more up there in the next few days and weeks to come. So here's a few more images for you to look at. You can see an audience member in our new 50th Make Poverty History t-shirt, as well as a couple of the speakers. So on the top there is Stephen Pimpere, who is with the NYU Silver School of Social Work, and you may recognize his name because he's been a guest speaker on some of our webinars for VISTA members as well. And he really did his talk in a TED style, and it was fantastic. The title of the talk was 13 Lessons from 50 Years of Anti-Poverty Policy and Research. So I highly recommend that you watch this talk, as it was very inspiring and eye-opening, and you may want to share it with your sponsor and with some of your fellow VISTAs, because I think it really speaks to the work that you're doing. We also had the opportunity to hear from Carrie Hessler-Redelet. She's the Director of Peace Corps, who agreed to acknowledge the fact that VISTA is often referred to as the Domestic Peace Corps, as we know, and she agreed, perhaps jokingly, to refer to Peace Corps as the International VISTA throughout this anniversary year. So all kinds of fun ways to recognize the program and celebrate it, and these are just some images for you to get a glimpse as to what it was like. And then finally, we had an amazing group of young scholars from Higher Achievement, and along with their AmeriCorps VISTA members serving at their location. And they concluded the afternoon by reading lines from President Johnson's speech that he delivered at the White House to the first class of VISTAs in December of 1964. So you may recognize that photo up there, having seen it at PSO, and you probably recognize the speech, as it is the source of the quote, "Your pay will be low, the conditions of your labor will often be difficult, but you will have the satisfaction of leading a great national effort, and you will have the ultimate reward, which comes to those who served their nation and who serve their fellow man." So you can still relate to that profound statement as you are in service today. So we also wanted to point out that we created a video that's also on the YouTube channel that's at your disposal to play at events, and this video uses LBJ's speech to thread VISTA's work past and present. So that's just one more resource available to you. Okay, so you can see from this screenshot that this is what the map looks like on the website where folks have registered their events. So if you are hosting events, please make sure you do register through our website, and you can see the URL down at the bottom there, nationalservice.gov/VISTA50. You can also get to it through the campus. And you can click on Solutions, Summits, and Events, and it'll take you down to this part of the website. And once you've registered, you'll receive communication from us to help support you in the planning of your events. This is also where you can find the organizer kit, which is an A to Z guide for planning 50th events. And there's also a facilitator's guide. And the facilitator's guide complements the suggested agenda that's in the organizer kit if you are hosting a community solutions summit. And it provides activities to help participants identify poverty-related issues and how to generate solutions. So you can check out the current listings so you can see if there's an event happening near you. The gray pens are events that have already taken place, and the blue pens have yet to occur. All right, so let's take a moment to look at some of the ways that you can engage digitally, and it looks like some of you have already discovered this. So we launched the I Am VISTA campaign as part of the National Solutions Summit kickoff. And some of you may also recognize that tagline from AmeriCorps Week because CNCS was encouraging members and alums to respond to the hashtag I Am AmeriCorps. So this is just a fun way to share what being a VISTA means to you through social media, and you can post a photo on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook or Tumblr using the hashtag I Am VISTA. So let's just take a minute to hear from you all and see how you would answer the question, I am VISTA because. Let us know. How are you a VISTA? Why are you a VISTA? Let us know in the chat what your response to that would be. And perhaps through this brainstorming, you'll get inspired to post on Instagram or one of the other social media channels as part of this campaign. We also created the hashtag VISTA50 for folks to use both leading up to and during 50th related events. Okay, great. So I wanted to strengthen my talents while helping the community and being a role model for my son. That's from Belinda. That's wonderful. Molly says she is I Am VISTA because I believe in America. Nice. Elena says I dedicate my time to improve the life of the refugees. Coral says I am VISTA because my future and the future of my country starts now. Nice. I am fighting poverty. I love to see how my actions can make a difference in my community because I wanted to serve the community I grew up in. Stephanie says because this is the first time I've felt like I'm doing something meaningful. Wow, these are great. Okay, you guys got to get to it as soon as we're done here. This really is wonderful because I care. Poverty is real, complicated, and needs to disappear. We will get it done together. That's from Grant. Fantastic. Keep it coming. So in the next screen, you'll see that some of your responses will then show up on our website on nationalservice.gov as part of the I Am VISTA campaign. So you can see people who have responded using that hashtag showing up on this campaign website through nationalservice.gov. So it's just fun and I think very meaningful way to briefly indicate why this is important to you. All right, so moving along, there are a couple of ways that you can blog about your AmeriCorps VISTA experience. CNCS has a Tumblr site, and if you just go to our homepage, nationalservice.gov, you'll see the Tumblr symbol in the right-hand corner, the upper right-hand corner. And this will take you to our blog, and there are buttons where you can submit your photos and videos along with your story. So the image on the left there is from Stephanie Left Hand, who actually was a speaker at the National Solutions Summit, and she had a Tumblr post, and so that's just a glimpse as to what something like that could look like. And likewise, we're really hoping that all of our VISTA sponsors, those organizations that host VISTA members, will participate in the anniversary efforts. So if your organization has a blog, we strongly encourage you or perhaps your VISTA supervisor or leader or someone else on the staff to write a post about the efforts and the impact of the VISTA members serving at your agency. So let your community know the impact that you're having on the mission of the organization as well as in the community itself. So the image on the right is a blog post written by May Cobb. Oh, sorry, just one before. I just wanted to point out that blog post on the right is written by May Cobb with the United Way, as United Way has been a VISTA sponsor for many years. And, of course, that's a shot of some of their leaders and members. So that was a great post, and we certainly appreciate that. Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to our guest speakers today. First up is Amy Bush. She is the Wyoming State CNCS Program Director, and she helped to plan a Community Solutions Summit that took place in Casper, Wyoming on January the 19th. And then after Amy, we'll hear from Kirsten Franklin Temple, and she's the Director of both the Washington and Alaska State CNCS office. And they recently held 2 events in March, one in Seattle and the other one just last week in Anchorage, Alaska. So they both planned stellar events that were appropriate for their respective geographic areas and their communities. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Amy.
Thanks, Liz. So our event in Casper, it all started back in during a Wyoming Commission meeting in September when I brought up the VISTA 50th planning and what we could do for our Community Solutions Summit. And right away, Nuri Glasgow, who is a VISTA alum, and she's currently a Program and Training Officer for Serve Wyoming, she agreed to take the lead and be our organizer, the lead organizer for our summit in Wyoming. So we put the word out to the VISTAs, site supervisors, and alumni, and organized conference calls to discuss the event and plan. And the topic of homelessness came up as a real important topic that everyone agreed on. So we decided to try to incorporate that into our summit with an event that was being planned for MLK Day already in Casper. It made really good sense to join with an event that was already being planned because they were going to be discussing the topic, and the summit would actually put it into action where we could hear about the problem first of all and then talk about solutions. So the MLK event organizers in Casper, they were very agreeable to us joining on, and it made great sense to us because they'd already secured a location. They had potential participants. There were city officials that were committed to being involved, and the media was going to be there. So all of that was already taken care of for us, which was very helpful. One thing that we've definitely learned through the years, it was also important to incorporate food in our event. So the committee went to work on that, and we were able to secure donations from local businesses. They got a very large 50th anniversary cake, as you can see on the screen, that was donated by Albertsons, and then Olive Garden donated spaghetti and breadsticks, and there was enough to feed half of Casper. So it took off from there. The other picture that you see beside the cake is Peter Clark, who's a VISTA alum from here in Wyoming, and he was elected this fall as mayor of Ranchester, Wyoming. So he's pictured there with myself, and he was commenting as we were planning and discussing the VISTA 50th that he said VISTA instilled a confidence in him that he could make a difference, and that confidence led him to running for mayor, so which is pretty impressive. He just hosted a VISTA member and a site supervisor at their city council meeting and signed the proclamation for the upcoming Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service. and it was pictured in the paper, so he's already doing great things in continuing to support VISTA and have everybody raise awareness. So on MLK Day, January 19th, the mayor and several council members, various service organizations, commission and community members, along with, we had AmeriCorps VISTAs, AmeriCorps State, NCCC members and alumni. They were among the 164 participants that showed up for our event. It was much bigger than we ever dreamed, so that was a huge success. So following the MLK March for Peace, attendees were greeted by the mayor of Casper, and then there was a presentation from the Casper Housing Authority sharing some very compelling statistics and information about homelessness in both Casper and in Wyoming. And then following that presentation, we asked everyone to join us for lunch and the VISTA 50th Community Solutions Summit. So kicking off the summit, I spoke about national service in Wyoming, gave an overview of our programs, talked about VISTA and recognizing the VISTA and alums that were in the audience. And then we divided everyone into small groups and handed out real-life homelessness scenarios and questions and asked them to each have their group discussions where we would bring everyone back together to discuss that. And as you can see, these are some of the groups that were each facilitated by VISTA and alums. And then we pulled everyone together to discuss the outcomes and possible solutions that were identified. Some of those outcomes included writing letters to legislators, advocating for more funding and tenant rights in Wyoming, building a coalition, including city council representation to continue to tackle solutions, and then one real tangible effort that came about and is moving forward is to create a cell phone program similar to domestic violence shelters, where they provide prepaid cell phones to people experiencing homelessness, and then they have a way to arrange meetings with various agencies providing resources. So after that, and everyone was able to join in celebration with the spaghetti and cake, and although all of the cake disappeared by the end of the event, then the volunteers that were there serving the lunch from Casper College delivered the leftover spaghetti to the local soup kitchen to be shared. So that was an added outcome. VISTAs and alumni that helped with the planning of the summit now plan to organize other summits in other parts of the state of Wyoming to be able to continue conversations and identify possible solutions that could be replicated in other communities, and then possibly to be addressed at the state level. Attendees' names and contact information was gathered at the event, and then the local committee members that are developing this coalition plan to continue to collaborate with those attendees and work with city officials on the issues and solutions identified. Just a couple added tips then for those that are planning their events. I really do recommend that you coordinate with an existing event because not only do you have that guaranteed audience started, you know, that you can add to, but a lot of the logistics and things can be worked out with coordinating with those other events. And then having an end impact in mind, not just a gathering, but you know, what can you do with that momentum from those discussions that happened during your summit. And then thirdly, my advice would be just don't forget about the food, because that always gets people there.
That's great. Thank you, Amy. Such a great example. So you all may have questions for Amy, so feel free to start putting those in the Q&A box that you see there, and then we will get to those when we come to the Q&A portion of the webinar. But by all means, if you have a question, you can go ahead and submit it, and we will address it in a little bit. Thanks again, Amy, and now we are going to hear from Kirsten Franklin Temple about the 2 community events that she helped to organize.
Great, thanks everyone. So on March 3rd, approximately 100 VISTA alums and supporters attended an event to celebrate VISTA's 50th anniversary in Seattle. And at the event, it included Seattle Mayor Ed Murray, AmeriCorps Director Bill Basil, who was a VISTA member in Yakima, Washington, and is also a kind of bi-coastal at the moment in DC, and he's originally from Seattle. So it's pretty easy getting him out here. And then through some research, we also discovered that King County Council member Larry Gossett also served as a VISTA member, and he was also a speaker at the event. So we decided to do more of a community celebration, primarily because one of our national service partners, the United Way of King County, puts together a really good community needs assessment on a very regular basis, and we felt that doing a solution summit would be duplicating the efforts that they're already doing. And we definitely wanted to do something, and Seattle is such a vibrant place and has so many VISTA alums and members that we thought that it would be great to connect past and present members at this event. And while we didn't have any food at this event, I'm kind of jealous of the spaghetti lunch that you had, Amy, in Wyoming. We ended up doing a happy hour afterwards, so people who attended the event were able to continue the connections that were made. If you are, one thing I would say is if any of you who are on the call are interested in getting involved in the planning of events that are taking place near you, to reach out to the state office. Pretty easy to connect with those folks. Just use your state abbreviation at cns.gov. So for Washington, you would send an email to wa@cns.gov. And I know we had a small committee that put together the event that included VISTA leaders that serve in Seattle, as well as another state office member, and then also an AmeriCorps alum that's currently an employee of a partner organization. So any help that you can give as VISTA members, I'm sure would be appreciated either in the planning of the event or at the event itself. So would encourage you to do that. So I also coordinated an event in Anchorage, Alaska, a little different in that Anchorage, as you can probably imagine, doesn't have as many, the VISTA population in Anchorage isn't as big as it is in Seattle. And so we had, again, a more of a celebratory event. We did have cake, so that was exciting, and had about 30 members attend that event. I did see a question come through about connecting with VISTA alums in Seattle. We were able to get we pulled a list of all the VISTA members that we could gather from the VISTA portal and ended up sending out a blast email to everyone. Unfortunately, the records that CNCS has only go back to, you know, when we had the online application process and were able to capture emails. So I'm sure we missed a fair number of individuals for both the Anchorage event as well as the Seattle event. And yeah, so it was really great, especially in Alaska, to see the VISTA members that had served in the 60s connect with the currently serving VISTA members. The types of service were extremely different. Some of the VISTA members that had served in the 60s spoke about their service in very rural communities in Alaska and what it was like to serve in these remote parts of the state where many of them didn't have running water, any electricity, but had these amazing experiences that kept them in the state for all these years since they served. There was one VISTA member that shared a story about being on the whaling crew for the village where they would go out and harvest whales for the community. So really interesting stories that, you know, piqued the interest of the current VISTA members who have exciting desk jobs. But it was really, really great to hear those stories from the members that had served. back in the day.
That's great. Thank you, Kirsten. So again, if you have questions that you want to ask of Kirsten, by all means, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box, and we will get to them in just a moment. And in the meantime, I wanted to share with you all a few resources and then some tangibles as to what you can do right now. So just a reminder, there's several ways to get to the website, AmeriCorps.gov/VISTA50, nationalservice.gov/VISTA50, and then as I mentioned, the campus leads you there as well. That's where you can find the organizer kit and the facilitator's guide, and that is also where you can register your events, looking at the screenshot there on the slide. You can see how those things are laid out. And then we've mentioned it several times, but the CNCS YouTube channel, there are several of the talks from the National Solutions Summit already up there, and our plan is to have all of them up in the next few weeks. So you can check back there, and please feel free to share those, play those, put them on social media. There are a few tearjerkers there, so we hope that the strength of these talks will get out into the world, and people can really get a sense of the impact of the VISTA program. Nationalservicegear.org is also available. You can get National Service Gear at cost by going to that website. Another reason to reach out to your state office is regarding gear that might be available to you. So just to underscore what Kirsten said, there are many reasons why if you are planning an event, you should loop in your state office if you haven't already, but that is another one. And then AmeriCorps alums, you may have heard of that organization. They are a nonprofit separate from CNCS that work with alums of all streams of service, and they can be a helpful resource in getting in touch with alumni in your community as you plan and publicize your events. So I encourage you to reach out to them. And keep in mind, you can always email us if you have questions at vista50@cns.gov. Thank you, Bethany. That's a website or an email address that's always available to you, and we try to be quite responsive in our answers. In the next slide, taking another look at what you can do. So as I've mentioned a few times, register your event. You can tell we want to know what's happening, so we can help support you and give you the information you need. And you guys did an amazing job of just brainstorming some thoughts on I Am VISTA. So we encourage you to share those through your social media channels and let the folks that you are serving with and at your agency know about that campaign as well. Tell your story, whether it's through a blog post or through the VISTA campus. There are numerous ways. It really is vital for us to get your stories across, because that's what is of interest to the media, and that's what really helps to explain in a tangible way what it is that you all are doing in your communities, and people can really embrace that and understand why this program is so important. And again, just to reiterate, we ask that you ask your sponsor, what are they doing to promote the 50th? This is a great opportunity for your organization to make sure that its VISTA members are recognized on the website, whether that's through the staff listing, in addition to, depending on how big the VISTA program is at your organization, it would be great to have a special page dedicated to the work that you're doing, so it's visible to the community what VISTAs are doing in relation to the mission of the organization where you're serving. And finally, we hope that you wear your VISTA polo and lapel pin proudly. Some of you may have gone to PSO just in the last few weeks, in which case you would have received a 50th anniversary polo and lapel pin. So regardless of what kind you have, we hope you wear them proudly because they can be conversation starters, and of course the more people connect the logo with the work that we're doing, it just helps to make sure everybody understands what AmeriCorps VISTA is and why it still is important these 50 years later. All right, with that, I will turn it over.
All right. Thank you, Liz, and thanks to Amy and Kirsten. So we're going to get to your questions in just a second. But before we do that, I want to just point out that we do care very much about your opinion relating to VISTA webinars. So we'd love to hear your feedback on this one in particular. And then also if you have ideas for topics that we could cover on other sessions in the future, please fill that in. So you'll see the poll is open there on the right side of the screen, and it'll stay open throughout the Q&A. So it is time for us to get to your questions. And just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question through WebEx online, you'll need to open the Q&A block, which is just above the polling. So you'll see Q&A. You can click the triangle next to Q&A. It'll open up there, so you'll be able to type in your question and hit the Enter key so it will be submitted. Or if you would like to ask your question by phone, I'm going to invite our operator to come back on the line and give us the instructions for asking a question verbally on the phone.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press star 1. Please ensure your phone is unmuted and clearly record your name when prompted. To withdraw your question, please press star 2. One moment, please, to see if we have any questions or comments.
Great, thank you. And while we're waiting for questions to come in over the phone, we do have a couple that have come in through WebEx. So the first one, I'm going to direct it to Amy, but Liz and Kirsten, feel free to chime in as well. So Sarah asked, for the Wyoming event, do you have any tips on how you went about asking for food donations? We would like to have food at our summit here in New Jersey.
Oh, that's a good question. Our committee just started canvassing the local grocery store. You know, in Wyoming, it's a little bit different, I'm sure, because there aren't a lot of businesses. So there's usually 4 or 5 different grocery store chains and then several restaurants. And they just started making some calls, and I think the very first calls were successful because those businesses were aware of National Service and of VISTA and very supportive. So they were happy to contribute. So yeah, I just suggest reaching out to any of those, and it helps to have some written information as well as a personal contact. Because a phone call or or an email even, it's easier to say no. But if you go in person, or if a committee of 2 or 3 folks can go in and have your VISTA gear on, and they're always interested in hearing more about what you're doing, and then they're definitely supportive.
Great, thank you, Amy. And Kirsten or Liz, I don't know if you have any other suggestions to add.
Yeah, this is Kirsten. I think the big thing is just ask. Try to figure out who knows who. As Amy said, if there's a personal connection, the chances of them saying yes is more likely, but you'll be amazed with just asking.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. And also I would say, to see every opportunity, every ask that you put out there, not only as a chance for you to perhaps gain a donation for this event this time around, but even if you're not successful this time, think about it that you're planting a seed for next time, because you're letting this organization know about who you are, what you're doing, what your project is about, what AmeriCorps VISTA is, what National Service is. Sometimes it takes a little time for that to sink in. Sometimes they'll see, they'll get the request for you this time, they'll decline and say no. Then later they'll read about your event in the newspaper and they'll say, oh my gosh, we could have been there. So next time they'll be more ready to come back with a positive response. So great tips. Thank you for sharing. Operator, let's go to the phone lines and see, do we have any questions there?
I show no questions. And again, as a reminder, if you do have a question or comment, please press *1.
Thank you. And also, as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question online, click the little triangle next to Q&A. It appears right above the polling block on the right side of your screen. Type in your question and then be sure to hit the Enter key or Send so that your question comes across to us.
Andy, can I jump in and just say, if you have already attended an event, and it sounds from the chat like some of you already have, and you'd like to share that experience with us, by all means call in and let us know about that. That would be helpful. And I also wanted to just make the point, I know this happened in Mississippi, that you may want to reconsider inviting people that you've been trying to work with and perhaps hadn't had the opportunity to. You know, maybe there's a foundation or some public official or, you know, somebody that you've really been working on trying to interact with, and for whatever reason they just have not been responsive. This is a great opportunity for them to hear and see firsthand the stories of the VISTA members and to meet you and your fellow VISTAs and to really get a firsthand understanding of what VISTA is all about. That could be really impactful, and perhaps they may have a change of tune and be all of a sudden interested in what it is that you're doing. And I also, again, reiterating what Kirsten said about reaching out to your state office, another reason for that is if you are trying to reach out to alumni, they can help you in terms of getting the list of people to try to invite. There's certain protocol that we have to go through that because of sharing information, but by working through your state office, we can help you reach out to those folks that we are in touch with. So I just wanted to offer those 2 pointers as well.
Great. And Liz, we have had a couple of questions about the videos from the National Solutions Summit just a month ago. And it looks like our media team is in the process of rearranging those videos in the channel. So the links that we had just yesterday aren't now working. So the videos aren't gone. They're just, I think they're putting them into a thread so you can do the autoplay and just play them all in one click. So we'll get those up. We'll get you the link. So have no fear. Those videos will be available very shortly.
Great. Thanks for letting me know.
Sure. And do we have any questions coming in on the phone?
Yes, we do have a question from Melody Frazier. Your line is open.
Hi, Melody.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I wanted to ask you in regards to the donations, and I'm a visitor here in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. Isn't it required that you have a form from your host sponsor with like a 501c3 something for the person who's going to donate to you, like a grocery store or Walmart?
Great question. Kirsten or Amy, do you want to talk to that?
This is Amy.
Go ahead, Amy.
I think if they're, wanting to have the tax deduction or something, that might be required, and it might be in different states, but
right.
It wasn't here.
Right, because, in a large city like Chicago, there are lots of people who want donations, and there are lots of companies who want the tax break. So I'm wondering if I need a 501c3, who would I get that from? Would it be my host sponsor?
Yeah, you could go to, if there's a development specialist or a fundraiser, a development office at your VISTA project host sponsoring site. I'm sure they have a standard letter that they use whenever they're doing requests. And you may want to coordinate with them as well to make sure that, if maybe they've just put out a request to a particular business.
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't want to trip over each other there. And they may also have ideas for places that have expressed interest, but they just didn't have the right opportunity for that business to support you. So, so that would be a great way to do it, and they can sort of help you, maybe coach you about how to make the request, or they might have a standard format for a letter that you could take with you. So they would be a great resource internally.
And Andy, this is Amy again. It does bring up a good point, though, that a lot of the businesses do have a process to go through, and so it is good to just become aware of what that process is. Sometimes, they'll have a request form that has to be submitted 30 days in advance or something like that. So good to check those things out.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, if you're in an area where it's more smaller town, it's more quaint. If you're in a larger area where it's more metropolis like Chicago, New York, it's more business-minded. So, yeah, it's important.
Right, definitely.
We need donations, yes. And I want to be prepared. I want to be prepared, yes.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
I show no further questions.
All right. I'm not seeing other questions here in the Q&A.
I see one, Andy.
Wait, yep, you're right. Sorry, I just needed to scroll further.
That's okay.
So Donna asks, do you recommend an optimal time frame for registering our event ahead of time? She's thinking 6 to 8 weeks prior, or do you suggest earlier? So Liz, you want to talk to that one?
Sure. I would recommend registering it as soon as you have a date and a location. That may be 6 to 8 weeks, or it may be even earlier than that. But really, the sooner the better, because that way we can communicate with you, and it's on our radar, and it's helpful to do it as early as possible. Would be our recommendation.
This is Kirsten. I would agree, or I would confirm that as well. The other issue that we have found, or that we found in both the Washington and Alaska events, is that there is a group, because VISTA is 50 years old, there's a group of VISTA alums that are out there that are more difficult to get in touch with. We don't have their email addresses. They may not be on social media. So having as much time as possible to, try various channels to get the word out through current and past sponsors, through current and past VISTAs that we may have email addresses for, through social media, the more, more notice that you have, the better chance you have in kind of contacting those middle service kind of time period VISTAs, so they're not all the ones that are more recently serving.
Yeah, and Kirsten, something you said turned on a light bulb in my head around engaging other VISTA sponsors in the community, and maybe even past VISTA sponsors who don't currently have VISTAs, but maybe 5 or 10 or more years ago were VISTA sponsors and really saw the benefit in that, and would really be interested in participating in a 50th celebration. So again, your state office would be a great resource to help put you in contact with other sponsors in your state or in your community, and even past sponsors as well.
Mm-hmm. And this is Liz. For me, it also triggers, in the organizer kit, there are recommended roles for your planning committee, and this isn't one of those official roles. There's fundraising and outreach and logistics planning and so forth. But you may want to have somebody whose job it is to research the alums in your area. As Kirsten mentioned, they did do some extensive Google searches and came up with the alums that they did who were of prominence in the community. So it's probably worth somebody's while to have that as their assignment, because it'll make for a richer experience for everyone.
Great, good suggestions all. Operator, do we have any other questions coming in on the phone line?
I show no further questions.
All right, and Liz, do you have any other questions on your side?
I don't. I would just like to say thank you to our guest speakers, Amy and Kirsten, and to all of you who participated in this call. There's obviously a lot of enthusiasm, so please take this momentum and go out and get your committees together or join up with something that's already happening and wear those polos proudly, as some of you said you're already doing, and thank you for the work that you're doing every day.
Great. And I just want to thank you, Liz, and again thank our guest speakers, Amy Bush and Kirsten Franklin Temple, for their time and information today. And I want to thank all of you for participating. And also, before we let you go, I want to let you know about our next webinar coming up in April. It's called Beyond Your Service Year, Project Sustainability Strategies. So that's April 22nd, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll be getting an email, if you haven't already, about that session and others coming up. We typically have 2 a month, so you'll see lots more information coming. Thank you for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you soon.